Mr. Farnsworth, in the last 6 months, have you met with the Vice President?
Have I? No, sir.
No. Mr. Fantini Porter, have you met with the Vice President in the last 6 months?
I have, Congressman, yes.
Does it surprise you that you're here and she's not, and no one from the administration is here?
Congressman, I can't speak to who was invited to a congressional hearing, but I can certainly say that from the partnerships.
Well, you've been saying all day, we, but the we is the federal government, correct? Your program is sponsored by the U.S. government?
That is not correct, sir. The Partnership for Central America is an independent, non-governmental organization.
You receive grants?
We do not. We're an independent, non-governmental organization.
Okay, so you're talking about private sector investment that doesn't have any federal backing.
What we are, sir, if I may, with all due respect, sir, and I know you come from a significant private sector background, and I respect that very much, we're an organization, Congressman Issa, that is focused on mobilizing and coordinating foreign direct investment into the region, full stop. So if I may, sir, what we're trying to do is bring together private sector organizations, large private sector multinational organizations, to make investments in the region. Last 12 months, $3.2 billion mobilized in that region, where, if I may, with all respect, sir, say that's a significant difference from past efforts. But to your point.
And I appreciate your nature of always thinking something significant. Mr. Farnsworth, would you invest in the Triangle right now?
I'd like to have something to invest in terms of my personal. That's just a joke, sir, and not a very good one. Look, people have different reasons for investing in different areas. It's a complicated region.
Okay. But currently, it's not on a high list of good return on investment, particularly Nicaragua, where you don't know whether you're going to get to keep what you invest.
I wouldn't invest in Nicaragua. No, that's a brutal dictatorship.
Okay, so we've at least taken care of part of that. Yeah. Let me, obviously I'm deeply disappointed that the Vice President has not addressed this group or any of the members, at least on my side of the aisle. She is the czar for this, what we're talking about today, and that development, I guess, according to Mr. Fantini Porter, she's responsible for. I just would like to see somebody from the administration just once come here to answer our questions. You talked about the situation at the border. Let me go through a couple of quick questions, and primarily for Mr. Farnsworth, but I'll take other answers. Is there anyone here today that believes that the 7 billion, 6.5 to 7 billion people who live in comparative poverty, that any of our programs are overnight going to eliminate that 6.5 billion people who live at a dramatically different economic level to the United States?
Overnight, no.
Okay, in a year?
I don't believe so.
In 5 years?
I can't say, but I don't think so.
Okay, well, since the beginning of the New Testament, has there ever been a time in which there were not areas of poverty and areas of comparative wealth, in which the world all was equalized so there'd be no reason for a migratory change for economic opportunity?
Probably not since the Garden.
Okay, so if we have 2,000 years that we have not had that perfect equality, I'm going to predict that in the next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, or at least as long as this administration is in power, we're not going to have that. So I'm going to go back to something that you concentrated on that this committee doesn't seem to want to deal with. Can we sustain an economic border policy at our border that promotes out-migration of motivated people from countries, every country of the world practically at this point, but particularly the region we're talking about of South and Central America?
I think you're pointing to a very important issue which we have only touched on in this hearing, and that is the disparity between the strong U.S. and North American economy and the relatively weak economies to our south. And there is a very real pull factor in the context of migration incentives. Look, if you don't have a job or you want a better job, your community circumstances may not be great, all the circumstances we've been talking about already, but you have the United States with a booming economy. We can't find enough.
Right, but I'm going to just focus on one question for you in the remaining time. Out-migration, and we'll assume for a moment that the best and the brightest, the most motivated, are who's coming here from these countries. Out-migration, isn't that adverse to the very nature of investing in a country? If I'm going to invest in a country in South or Central America, don't I want a workforce that inherently I can count on their being there rather than the continued out-migration that our open border policy provides?
I think it's a really interesting point. And one of the things we say all the time is that, you know, the worst resource to lose from your population, from your country, is your population. That's your seed corn. That's how you grow your economy, is with talented, educated individuals. And absolutely, if you're losing those folks, that's a gain to the U.S., but it's a loss for the sending economies.
Mr. Fantini-Potter, you seem to want to answer also.
Certainly, sir. If you'd like, you know, I think that the root of the question ends up, perhaps, if I may, just blending two different topics, and that is a short-term question of border enforcement and a long-term effort of international development, sir. And as I sit here before the subcommittee of a House Foreign Affairs Committee, I reflect on the fact that this long-term effort is focused on metrics that align with that. So how do we focus on an effort that in the end of the day is intended to achieve impact in the long term? Acknowledging, sir, with absolute respect, that there are short-term fluctuations in migration, which will continue with absolute certainty, sir, but that as we think about this as a long-term effort, we are putting our best foot forward to try to bring this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence. Yield back.